In this lesson, we're going to be looking at the ingredients which are used by whisky makers around the world. By law, whisky has to be made from a cereal product. In front of me, I've got two of the main cereals which are used around the world. The first is malted barley. Malted barley is used for a number of different reasons. One is to give flavour in single malt whisky, for example, and the manipulation of that malted barley, maybe by burning peat smoke underneath it, will give a smoky fragrance. Malted barley will also add a sweetness and a slight nuttiness to your final spirit. Barley is a famous whisky ingredient. It's the sole grain used in single malt whisky production. It's a hardy crop. The reason that it's used in Scotland and Ireland is that in the somewhat moist and sometimes cool climatic conditions that you get up there in the far north, barley is one of the few cereal crops that will actually prosper. That's the reason that barley has always been used. Take a little taste of it, and you get that slight nutty, crunchy, and indeed breakfast cereal type of flavour, which is going to be carried through from this seed all the way into the final spirit. Great stuff, barley. The other major ingredient is corn. Corn will be the predominant cereal crop in bourbon and Tennessee whisky. Minimum 51% of corn in the overall mash bill. But it's also used to produce grain whisky in Ireland and in Scotland and around the world. Corn gives a kind of fat sweetness to the whisky. And when in combination with the malted barley and the spirit from that, gives a very intriguing, rich and complex blend of flavours. And if you smell the corn, if you heated that up slightly before it started popping like popcorn, you get that wonderful, rich, sweet aroma, which is going to be coming through in your final spirit. So corn, very, very important. Other cereals can be used. Wheat is used in bourbon production. Rye is used in bourbon production as well. And often, as a dominant player, minimum 51% rye will give you rye whisky. The one thing you cannot forget is that you cannot make whisky without cereal as its base. Our next ingredient is water. Water is vital to the production of whisky. You need a lot of water. You need a lot of pure water. You need a lot of pure cold water to make whisky. It's long been thought that the flavour of the water itself is a major contributing factor to the final flavour of the spirit. You will find that many distillers actually push the quality of their water as a major factor. And it's undoubtedly true that distilleries are built where there is plentiful supply of water. So it is an important and integral part of whisky. It's just not a big, big driver of flavour. I'm not saying that water doesn't have a flavour and doesn't have an impact on flavour overall. But in the grand scheme of things, the cereal type, fermentation length, distillation and maturation are all much more significant players in establishing big, big flavours within the whisky. But you do need water. You need water twice within the whisky production process. First, when you're mashing together your cereals, and secondly, the cold water you need in the condensing system, turning alcohol vapour back into liquid. Magic stuff. Our next ingredient is this magic stuff, yeast. Oh, fantastic smell. Yeast is going to take the sugary liquid that we create by mashing together our cereals with our water. And when yeast is added to that sweet sugary liquid, you get fermentation. And yeast gobbles up sugar, turns it into alcohol, heat, and CO2. Yeast is what transforms a sweet liquid into something with alcohol. And that's what we as distillers want. We want booze. By law, whisky has to be aged, and it's aged in oak casks. And oak can be considered as our final ingredient, because up to 60, maybe even 70% of a whisky's final flavour will come from the interaction between the flavours contained in the oak and the flavours which the distiller has created in the spirit. So the species of oak, the number of times the cask has been filled, is vital in creating flavour. Oak. This is where most of the study and the science is going on at the moment in the whole whisky industry. It is vitally, vitally important. So a significant amount of the innovation and scientific research within whisky is revolving around wood type, around toasting levels, charring levels, about the use of different oak barrels, perhaps being used for port or rum or Madeira or sherry, etc. Oak, absolutely vital in creating flavour in whisky. And there you have it. The secret of whisky laid bare. It's really pretty simple. Cereal, water, yeast, distilled and aged in oak. A child of 5 could do it. The secret is manipulating it. The tiny little tricks and tweaks and changes and differences between each individual distiller. What they want, what they do to create their own individual character. That's where the magic comes in.